"Mom, when are we going back to Dad's other place?" He said it like it was normal, like I should already know. I froze, not immediately reacting, just processing. "What other place?" I asked. He shrugged. "The one with the small kitchen. We went there once." At first, I almost smiled, because kids mix things up. They imagine places. They confuse memories. But something about the way he said it didn't feel imagined. It felt remembered. And that's what stayed with me. Not the words, the certainty behind them. That night, I didn't sleep the same, because for the first time, I started questioning things I had always accepted. My name is Natalie Foster, and what I thought was a small misunderstanding turned into something I wish I had never discovered. Before I show you what I found behind that other place, subscribe and comment where you're watching from. Because this story didn't start with betrayal, it started with one sentence I almost ignored. At first, I convinced myself it meant nothing, because that's the easiest thing to do. Dismiss it. Kids say things all the time. They create stories, mix places, forget details. And as a parent, you learn not to take everything literally. So I let it go. Or at least, I tried to. Because even when I stopped thinking about it, something in me didn't fully accept it. It wasn't fear. Not yet. It was discomfort. The kind that sits quietly, in the background. Not loud enough to panic you, but strong enough to stay. Because deep down, I knew something didn't fit. And when something doesn't fit, your mind keeps going back to it. Later that night, I mentioned it to my husband. Not seriously, not directly, casually. "Have you taken him somewhere new recently?" He didn't think, didn't pause, just answered, "No, just normal outings." And that should have been enough. But it wasn't. It wasn't what he said. It was how quickly he said it. No hesitation, no confusion, no moment of thinking. Just an answer. And sometimes, fast answers don't come from truth. They come from preparation. That's what stayed with me. I didn't ask anything else, didn't question him further, didn't repeat what my son said. Because if I pushed too soon, I might miss something. And if there was something to find, I needed it to stay natural, unforced. We went to sleep like normal. Nothing unusual, no tension, no argument. But inside, something had shifted. Because once doubt enters, it doesn't leave quietly. It stays, and it grows. The next morning, everything looked the same. Same routine, same conversations, same life. But for me, it felt different. Because now, I wasn't just living it. I was noticing it. Small things became visible. Timing, habits, details I had never focused on before. Not because they changed, but because I did. And once you start observing, patterns begin to appear. Later that day, I opened our bank account. Not urgently, not emotionally, just quietly. Scrolled through transactions, month by month. No expectation, just looking. Because sometimes, answers don't come when you search for them. They come when you notice them. And that's when I saw it. A payment. Same amount, same date. Every month. Consistent. Unchanging. To something I didn't recognize. And the more I looked at it, the more it stood out. Because consistency is never accidental. After I noticed the transaction, I didn't react immediately. I didn't assume anything. I just looked closer, clicked into the details, read the reference, the description, the account it was going to. Because sometimes, Answers are hidden in plain sight. And the more I looked, the less it felt random. The payment wasn't labeled clearly. It wasn't something obvious like rent or utilities. It was coded. A name I didn't recognize. Something generic. Easy to ignore. And that's when I realized this wasn't meant to stand out. It was meant to blend in. So I searched it, not expecting much. Maybe just a company, a service, something simple. But what came up wasn't simple. It was linked to a property, a rental listing, and the moment I saw that, everything slowed down. Because that changed everything. This wasn't just a payment. It was rent. Consistent. Monthly. Hidden inside normal expenses. And suddenly, my son's words came back. Clearer than before. Dad's other place. I didn't go to him, didn't ask questions, didn't mention anything, because I didn't want a story. I wanted the truth. And truth doesn't come from asking. It comes from confirming. So I went back. Months. Then further. Year by year. Looking at the same transaction. Same amount. Same timing. And what I found made it worse. It wasn't recent. It had been there for a long time. That's when it hit me. This wasn't something that just started. This had been happening quietly. While everything looked normal. While life continued. While I trusted everything around me. And that realization felt heavier than anything else. I didn't stop there, because now I needed something real. So I traced it, followed the details, matched the information, until I had it. An address. Not assumed, not guessed. Confirmed. It wasn't a luxury place. Not something obvious. Just a small apartment. Simple. Quiet. The kind of place no one would question, because nothing about it stood out. And that's exactly why. It worked. At that point, there was no doubt left. No confusion. No misunderstanding. It was real. And the hardest part wasn't discovering it. It was realizing how long it had been hidden. That night, I sat with my son again. Not seriously. Not in a way that would make him think something was wrong. Gently. What did you do at Dad's other place? He didn't hesitate. Didn't think. Just answered naturally, like he was talking about something normal. Something familiar. And that's what made it harder. We watched TV, he said. Dad said it's his workplace. I stayed quiet for a second, because that explanation was simple. Too simple. And that's when I realized this wasn't something new to him. This was something he had already accepted. There was no confusion in his voice, no hesitation, no uncertainty, just clarity. Because kids don't lie like that. They don't build stories with structure. They repeat what they experience. And in that moment, I knew he had been there more than once. I didn't push further, didn't ask too many questions, because I didn't want to confuse him or make him feel like he did something wrong. He didn't. He just told me what he knew. And that was enough. That night, I opened everything again. The bank statements, the payments, the dates. But this time, I looked deeper. Not just at the rent, but everything connected to it. And that's when I saw more. There were other transactions, small ones, spread out. Groceries, utilities, everyday expenses, all tied to that same location. And that's when it became clear. This wasn't occasional. This was regular life. It wasn't just somewhere he went sometimes. It wasn't temporary. It was active, maintained, used, lived in. And the realization hit differently this time, because now, it wasn't just a place. It was a life. Then I saw something else, attached to the address. Another name, Not mine. Not anyone I knew. Just there. Connected. Consistently. And that detail changed everything again. Because a place can be hidden. Money can be explained. But another person changes the story completely. That's when the truth stopped being unclear. Stopped being uncertain. It became undeniable. At that point, I couldn't just sit with it. I couldn't keep checking from a distance, because I already had enough. More than enough. And there was only one thing left. To see it for myself. Not through records. Not through patterns. In reality. If you think I confronted him right away, you're wrong. Because what happened next is when everything became real. I didn't tell anyone, didn't make it obvious, didn't even plan it too far ahead. I just went. The address was already in my mind, clear, confirmed. And as I drove there, I didn't feel panic. I didn't feel anger. I felt focused. Because this wasn't about guessing anymore. This was about seeing it. The place wasn't noticeable, not large, not impressive, just normal. The kind of building you pass without ever looking twice. And that's what made it worse. Because something so big was hidden in something so ordinary. I walked up slowly, not rushing, not hesitating, just steady. And when I reached the door, I paused. Not because I was unsure, but because I already knew. Deep down, I knew what I was about to confirm. I knocked. Once. Then waited. The seconds felt longer than they were. Because in that silence, everything was already happening. Every thought. Every realization. Every possibility. Coming together. Then the door opened. And it wasn't him. It was a woman. She looked at me calmly, not surprised, not confused, just neutral. Like this moment wasn't unexpected for her. She didn't ask who I was, didn't question why I was there. She just said, "He's not here right now. You can come later." And that was it. No hesitation, no concern. Because to her, I didn't exist. I didn't respond immediately. Because there was nothing to ask, nothing to clarify. Everything was already clear. Her tone, her confidence, the way she spoke, like she belonged there. I didn't step inside, but I didn't need to. Because from where I stood, I could see enough. Furniture, details, signs of a life being lived. Not temporary, not occasional. Real. I didn't argue, didn't introduce myself, didn't explain anything, because explanations weren't needed anymore. So I turned and walked away, calmly, because once truth becomes visible, there's nothing left to question. As I walked back, everything connected. The payments, the patterns, my son's words, the timelines, all of it. And for the first time, there were no gaps left. No confusion. No doubt. Just reality. After I left that building, I didn't go home immediately. I just sat in my car, hands still, mind quiet. Because sometimes, the moment you've been preparing for doesn't feel loud when it happens. It feels still, like everything inside you has already accepted it. And in that silence, I realized something. This wasn't new. It just finally became visible. That night, I went through everything one more time, not because I needed proof anymore, but because I needed the full picture. Dates, payments, messages, absences, moments where he wasn't there. And I didn't question it. And slowly, a timeline formed. Clear, complete. And that's when it hit me. This didn't start recently. It had been going on for years. Not months. Years. During moments that mattered. during times I needed him, during times I trusted him the most. He was somewhere else, living something else. And the hardest realization wasn't the place. It wasn't the money. It was the timing. Because while I was pregnant, he was already going there. While I needed support, he was building another life. And that truth didn't break loudly. It settled quietly. A few days later, I went back once more, not to confront, not to knock, just to see. And as I stood there, I noticed something small. Clothes on the balcony, hanging, moving slightly in the wind, and then I recognized them. Some of them were mine. Old clothes, things I thought I had misplaced, things that disappeared over time. Nothing important, nothing I questioned, until now. Because now, they weren't missing. They were moved. That's when everything inside me went quiet. Not emotional, not reactive, just clear. Because when everything connects, there's nothing left to feel, only something to decide. I didn't confront him immediately, didn't create a scene. I prepared, saved records, documented everything, got legal advice, separated what needed to be protected, because this wasn't about emotion anymore, it was about control. A few days later, I sat him down. No shouting, no anger, just calm. Placed everything in front of him and said, "Explain this." He tried, started speaking, but stopped. Because truth doesn't bend when it's complete. I didn't ask anything else, didn't wait for answers, didn't need closure, because I already had it. I took my son's hand and walked away. Not broken, not lost, just certain. Because the hardest part wasn't finding out. It was realizing how long I had been living beside a lie. It wasn't that he had another place. It was realizing he had been living another life at the same time as mine. If this story felt real, subscribe and comment where you're watching from, because sometimes the truth isn't hidden. It's just waiting for the moment you're ready to see it.